What's up, guys? My name is Roby D. Today I'm going to walk you through setting up Canon's new web utility. Well, it's not super new. It's been out for about a month now, but I'm going to walk you through it and tell you why it makes sense for small churches, for small businesses, and how you can use hopefully your existing Canon camera to increase your web quality. Now, this is a setup that I actually use on a week-to-week basis when I teach the youth group on Wednesday nights. So I use Facebook Live, and I use OBS, and I use a Canon M50. Today's version is going to be on Windows. I normally use it on a Mac. So here's Canon's version of turning your DSLR into a webcam. You guys ready? Let's check it out over here. All right, so this is the look that I give every week for the youth group. Have a couple of lights in back just to give a little more dimension to the scene. So right now for the lens, I'm using a 22mm f2 lens. It makes that background really shallow. All you need is a Canon camera that has been made in the last probably 3 or 4 years. Some of them go back about 5 years, depending on if it's a DSLR or mirrorless. You're going to need a USB cable that will connect your Canon camera to your computer, and you have to know what kind of input you have on your computer and what output you have on your Canon camera. And finally, you're going to need a Windows 10 64-bit computer. Now, my video is probably a little bit choppy because this computer is much older, but this is all I had around, so I can actually give this a test. I'll do another video on the Mac, which is a lot more up to date, and I'll show you that it works much better there. Let's get into the setup here. So the first thing we're going to download is OBS Studio. This is the software I love for getting a more professional look. I can load videos. Let's say for my Wednesday night, I do a countdown video 5 minutes beforehand. I can easily run that. I can also bring in multiple cameras, and they don't have to be connected to the computer. There's this thing called NDI, which allows you to do a wireless camera. I'll show you how to do that later. It's free. That's great about it. It's a really big community that is constantly adding more features to the software, and that's the best thing about it. Of course, you're going to download the version for Windows. And while that's still downloading, we're going to go and download the Canon Web Utility. Now, the Windows version has been out for about a month now. Remember, this is still a beta driver, so don't go out and buy a new camera because of this. It is still very much in testing. We're going to find my camera. I have a Canon M50. Great camera. Love this camera. It can do so much. Very capable. Highly recommend it. But not going out and buying it for this particular purpose. Just to make that clear. All right, so we're going to find this here. Let's go to select and download. Easy. What I like to do is when I'm downloading software, I'm going to go just press the little buttons here, go to show folder, and it brings us to the folder that our software is in. So now let's go ahead and extract. So I'll right click on the file. I say extract all, and it's going to create a new folder. And this is where our software is. I'm not going to install it because I already have it installed. You know how to install software. Just double click on it or right click and say install, and just take all the defaults. Don't change anything. The same thing with OBS. You're going to right click on it, go open, and take all the defaults also. Super simple software. Okay. I do recommend installing OBS first. All right. So now that our software is installed, we're going to switch back to the window that I already have going. Now let's set up your webcam. So the difference is when you get into the software, it's not going to look quite like this. I already have a bunch going on because I already have a webcam and it's all set up for this tutorial. I'm using OBS to capture the desktop, so it has to be all set up for you. But you'll see, so when you get into it, it's not going to have all of these scenes here. You should just see a blank scene, something like this. You'll see no sources here. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the plus, you're going to add a video, and then let's just call it Canon Web Utility. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see. Hopefully it works. Good. So far so good. we're going to pick the Canon Web Utility Beta. Perfect. All right. So we're just going to drag this over here. All right, now let's add some audio. We're going to do audio capture. You see I already have a couple of USB mics already set up, so let's just call it USB 3. You'll know your USB setup, so it's going to be completely different than mine. Now we can see the preview that we're looking at is this scene, the video setup and the audio setup. Now all we have to do is hit transition. Perfect. And there we are. So very easy to set up. Once again, this utility is for those that already have a Canon camera. I can't recommend this utility as of right now to go out and buy a brand new Canon camera. If you don't take my advice and you go and buy one, this Canon M50 is one that I highly recommend. Why? It's $500. It has dual pixel autofocus, which tracks my face, and it has a flip out screen. Those three reasons alone, I love it. One thing that it doesn't have, that's going to be a deal breaker for some people, is it doesn't have clean HDMI out. So you won't use this camera in the future as you move along. If you do go HDMI and go with the switcher, you're going to be hamstringed by this camera. But for $500, it's a great camera for a webcam type solution like this. All right, so what are some cons of the software? One, you won't have audio. So you're going to have to find a different audio source, which I recommend anyway. Instead of using the Canon camera onboard audio, I still recommend coming in with a different audio source. Two, it's still beta. So there's going to be kinks, there's going to be bugs. Expect that to happen. Three, you're going to want a Windows 10 64-bit machine that's fairly recent. It doesn't have to be a really beefy machine, but you don't want something that's old like mine, that's running slower processors and just won't keep up. All right, so hopefully that was informative. There's a few other things I want to go over. One, make sure you have a good USB cable. I've ordered a couple of different ones off of Amazon. I've had to send some back. Test it as soon as you get in, plug it in, make sure you can move it around without issues, without it dropping out. I'll link in the description the ones I've used successfully, and they've been solid for me. I do recommend a long USB cable. I have a 15-footer and a 10-footer, and that's just so if I do want to have a different situation, I can get the camera further away from my computer and I can have it record my subject. Another thing that we'll talk about later on are dummy batteries. They're great. I'll put a link in the description with the dummy battery that I use. I do have some issues with mine and it doesn't get amazing reviews, but for me, I definitely would recommend using a dummy battery. That's really it. So this situation is going to be great for who? If you're a small church operator, maybe you guys are still meeting at home and you don't have the full congregation back. Maybe you're doing your midweek at home and you're doing your Sunday service in church. Use this for your midweek service. This can also be for maybe your small business and you have social distancing rules, but you're doing in-person meetings or you're doing meetings that make sense still, but you can't have too many people participate. Using this setup will definitely help you there. Or maybe you're doing some online classes because you can't have people in class anymore to bring them to you. You can use this setup. You're going to increase your production value so much with the quality of this. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. You're going to have more control over your settings. This is just going to be a much better solution than using your iPhone, especially the front-facing camera on your iPhone. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have a Canon camera or if you're already in the market for one, maybe this will tip the scales. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and see you guys next time. Late. What's up, party peeps? Today we're gonna, all right, let's stop. Let's get it all in sync, get it all in sync, get it all in sync.